Welcome everyone to a best of 3 between this guy down here, Dark, and this guy up here, Kier. So this happened for the Korean StarCraft League, or abbreviated KSL, a weekly StarCraft 2 tournament for the Korean scene that has gotten huge support for the tournaments that they've been putting on their Patreon. I'm realizing there's a 3-rack, so I only have so much time to speak. So definitely go support that if you want to continue supporting this Korean StarCraft. That gives us such amazing players like Kier and Dark, and such amazing TvZs as this 2-rack cheese. TvZ is truly amazing. It's actually really cool. I hope this 2-racks leads into a super macro game, because that's the best type of StarCraft possible, and that's exactly what a 2-racks can actually lead into. So I'm hoping that's the case. A 3+ racks, a little too dedicated, doesn't often go any farther than whether or not you win or lose with the 3 racks. The 2 racks, there's a lot more to be done, even if it kind of fails, which Maru tried his best to prove in, what, like around 2017, basically? Proved that that was the case. You could 2 racks and macro out of it. So far, not so good for Kier. The Overlord of Dark is going to scout this. Dark very intent on scouting this. Actually sent the Overlord exactly in a path that would typically scout the 2 raxes. The biggest brain would clearly be for Kier to put the 2 racks here, which Dark would actually avoid because he was sending his Overlords around to actually scout the racks itself. Can be a bit of a dangerous game if you do not scout the 2 racks. You might be in error thinking that it's not happening. So some people leave the Overlord here, but most pros, they do go scouting with the Overlord. So pre-pull on the drones. That's the way you're going to do it if you actually know what's on the way. Not let the bunker get down easy peasy lemon squeezy. 3 drones enough to be a bit of a bother, but if you really want to contest things now, you're going to have to pull more drones with the Lings as well. The Lings are on the way. And actually the drones are being pulled right here, right now. Good pullback on that one injured drone. Tries to pull back the other one. Not going to work out. The drone drill is about to capture the Marines. Captures one of them. 4 drones have gone down so far. 3 Marines now available. The drones, of course, not mining this entire time either. They are chasing very, very far away. They do capture yet another Marine, but in total, 9 drones go down. The bunker actually finished even, which is another bad sign, but it will have to be salvaged, as too many Lings will get salvaged, though, and that's another benefit to Kier, who manages to save a couple of minerals. Maybe the Marine count wasn't high enough to tackle that many Lings, maybe biting a little more than he could actually chew. But if Kier is macroing back at home, which we're going to go ahead and assume that he is, then this is actually okay. And in fact, with another Marine popping out here, that's going to be enough, right? Plus a Reaper's on the way, which is a longer producing unit, so that's going to take a little while. But that also would have ensured that Kier had something to potentially even go back home. If Dark had decided, you know what, this isn't going to work out, I'm just going to build a bunch of Lings and hope this guy lowers his wall, then the Reapers would have eventually been able to go back home and help out. And this is a map setup that doesn't kind of favor the Terran. It's not going to be super important in this particular game, but if you have to build a reactor on the wall, it kind of sucks. As, yeah, it's a very slow producing building, and it can't be repaired until it's done. But like I said, it doesn't really matter in this game. Too many Lings had already died. Dark isn't trying to just throw this game away. He's actually trying to recover. But it is a recovery. That was a lot of drones to go down, lots of lost mining time. You, of course, had to produce the Lings to make sure you didn't take any more damage. And, well, actually, there you go. Dark realizes it's not going to be worth playing this one out. So that's a GG. All right. Best of 3, by the way, guys. Not a best of 1. That was kind of a funny tap out. I was just about to go into a speech about how Dark has had some really abysmal defenses against 2 racks before, and then played out of it to the point that he did almost win. It was quite impressive. It was a game versus Beyond on Stargazers. But this time around, he's like, no, not worth the effort. I'm just going to tap out. And he was so far behind, guys. It would have been a huge comeback if he actually managed to live for another 4 or 5 minutes. All right, let's go into game 2. Correct best of now on the board. In the bottom left of Royal Blood, we have Dark. And the top right, it is the blue Terran Kier. So, now that we don't have a 2-racks on the way, I can talk a little bit more about these players. just recently cast Cure in another TvZ, and if you watched it, you know I'm not a real big believer in Cure's TvZ. I don't think he looks especially confident, even though he's not really doing anything wrong. And it's not like it's super bad. It just doesn't do much, and doesn't seem to be getting him a whole lot of wins. But that's not based off of fact. I actually have not looked at his illegal act record, so I don't know if he's losing a lot of TvZs. But to me, it just does not feel very good. Even when some other Terrans, like a Byun or a Mara or a Clem, end up losing all of their TvZs, let's say it that way, they just suddenly lose all their TvZs. Every Terran's losing TvZs. I'd still find more things to be impressed with for a lot of the other Terrans. Cure plays, for the most part, as if someone asked for a dictionary definition of a Korean Terran in 2023. So you know what you're gonna get. It's solid. It's not that it's always macro, as seen before. Korean Terran's very famous for 2-raxing. But it's just, you know, I have a hard time being a fan of him right now. And it doesn't help that his actual results are worse than they have been in the past. So I think he's on a bit of a low point right now. We'll see if he'll get something done this year for the GSLs. And we'll see, I guess, right here, right now, if he's able to close the series out 2-0 after taking out Gressfon with that 2-rax, which I do believe more and more that he might actually just not like Gressfon in particular. he lets it through and he doesn't veto it, so he must like it to a certain degree. But yeah, that map and Cure, I feel like I've seen so many more mediocre TvZs from on that map in particular. Maybe Royal Blood's better for him. We do have a command center first, up into that 2-rax. Dark going for a typical Zerg opener. These guys did play very recently in another Open Cup. Was it yesterday? Was it North American Open Cup? Might have been. And so far, I am getting some like deja vu because Kier went for a low ground command center and got road trushed. Oh, it was by, oh, that's what it was. Kier versus Vanya, Radita, Wayne. Anyways, tried to road rush this exact opener, and the road rush kind of looked like it was going to fail no matter what. I think the only thing that really truly hard counters a command center first is in fact a proxy hatch, which is very rarely done, but Dark was doing it. So Dark still remains one of those players who seemingly can do everything and anything. I describe them as someone who is basically 9 out of 10 on anything you can think of, and maybe is lacking a 10 out of 10, something that he is hands down the best at. Maybe killing foreigners is the best, is what he's best at. But otherwise, like 9 out of 10 for literally every line that you can think of given to Dark on a card, I think is still pretty freaking good. I mean, the point is this guy is not just a jack of all trades, master of none. He's borderline master of everything. But it is a macro game. And the Reaper just confirmed that before inevitably dying. Kira's going to be going up to a 2-1-1 without any fear of being attacked by lings or roaches. Well, technically a bunch of lings could have just popped, I suppose. But the wall is up, so cannot do it. So the 2-1-1 is going to hit about 40 seconds. Dark, is he aware of this opener? Absolutely, completely, 100%. Did not see him dip in and see this, but yeah, he totally knows what's going on. And has decided to respond in a very typical defensive Zerg fashion. So get your queens up, get your +1 carapace up. One of the first build responses to when the 2-1-1 was coming out years ago, and it's gone back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And then around the time at which the medevac should be making their way across the map, you bust out like, what, 20 lings? And the real kicker is having your lings and your queens together to defend. One of the reasons that the 2-1-1 does occasionally just not be done at all is that it became relatively easy for the Zerg players to scout it and then perfectly defend against it. So it just really didn't seem like it was doing a whole lot. I think Beyond Come Back from Military actually really helped bring back the popularity of it. He was almost stubbornly attached to it, but he showcased how good you could still be. And overall, the idea of the build still works out in theory. You know, maybe it doesn't get big money, but you do have consistent pressure, mobility. You can really, like, your skill can really be highlighted. If you're good with a 2-1-1. And occasionally, you can throw in a couple of different versions of it, like a command center first, or a 2 base all-in follow-up, or a no swap onto the starport's reactor Hellion build, which Ryung does, where he just actually goes into a 2 base Hellbat all-in. So there's some changes, but I mean, if you're going to go into a 3rd CC, which Kier has done, it is supposed to be kind of easy is not the right word, but it is expected that the Zerg player does not take any major damage and thrives macro-wise. And the question more so is not what can Kier do with this main army to get a lot of damage done, but how much can he keep alive and how much pressure can he keep on the Zergs that he also can expand and macro and do good things and play a super macro game. But if you end up killing 5 queens and 20 lings with your double dropping, more power to you. In this case, 1 medevac has already died, 11 marines have already died, medevacs are out of juice. I mean, Kier is on limited time for this, but he has cleared out quite a few creep tumors, so there's the good news. Looking for an overlord. Dark finishes +1 carapace, which is going to make even basic ling surrounds on this marine army quite good. So going to force a pickup. It's going to happen even without that +1 carapace at that point, but you know what I mean. It does help. And now even a bit of a run by, as the medevac, if it has to unload on top of lings, is pretty bad at it. But Kier has been macroing for a while at this point. It's like it was the only army that he had, so plenty available. Doesn't have to lift the 3rd CC. And we do have the rest of the build underway. I thought that guy was going to make a really quick 4th CC, and I'm still expecting a fairly quick 4th CC. I'm not sure Kier has been a super big fan of 8 racks, but that is the 2 choices from this point on, so. Dark's 4th base. Oh, it does not have a lot of creep spread, does it? No, it doesn't. Those queens spending a lot of time tracking the 2 medevacs, and then it became 3 medevacs, and then trying to break down the rocks. So that's a disappointing number of creep tumors. A little concerning. Clever tank positioning on that high ground doesn't actually cover a whole lot, really. It basically covers, like, here. Okay, here. But enough to help the Marines retreat. And this tank continues to inch forward. Dark is setting up one hell of a surround, however. And he is going to pull the trigger. 10 seconds to go on that 1-1, but it's about the Banelings anyways, and they get the connection. Now 1-1's done, thank you very much. Banelings still roly-poly on in. Take out that last tank, in the Marines, well, maybe was thinking about tryhard microing right there, decides, yeah, maybe I should just go ahead and go home. Once again, Dark could try and initiate some type of run-by, hoping there's not enough reinforcements back at home, and there really aren't a lot, but then doesn't want to have 3 medevacs with units suddenly drop at home, right? He's got to be careful about getting too over-eager to try and get some return damage done. And Kier has started up his 4th CC. You know, he's gotten to a similar, if not directly even, number of workers, and yeah, didn't kill the 4th, didn't do a whole lot of damage to the actual economy of Dark. I still think is playing a fine macro game back at home. And like I said, that's kind of really more so what I was looking at. Clever positioning, good tank shots, fancy marine micro. All good if you can do it. But the expectation is that Dark is not going to die to this. And certainly he is not. Well, that 2-2 is a little bit farther along than Dark. I would say, like, 2-2 timing. But really nowadays, with the way that Terran plays, if you get that 4th CC, you are probably, especially with Kira actually, you're probably just going to be staying at home. I mean, Kira has done some move outs, but a lot of staying at home from him, especially on Gresthon. Maybe it is different on Royal Blood. Big wall coming down here to make sure no freebie run-bys happen. And it is a huge wall. More production, factories, barracks, and that 4th CC now heading over, which Dark is going to scout. Technically, he already scouted it, so it's all good. And a hive is on the way for Dark, so we're going into late game TvZ. So Cure probably going to be hitting right, left, right, left, right, left. We know how this goes. Couple of medevacs over here, couple of medevacs over there. Can the Zerg split correctly? And if this was Beyond, he'd add in a 3rd thing, and a 4th thing, and a 5th thing. And then there'd actually be a legitimate question of whether or not the Zerg player can handle everything at once. Woohoo! Woohoo! Good Baneling snipes. But for Cure, I do expect him to just go ahead and go into Turtle Terran. And for Dark to eventually feel comfortable enough to actually send it. To go after him, to try and kill him. Oh, Dark loves his macro hatcheries, doesn't he? You don't see many professional Zerg players with 2 macro hatcheries. But Dark is one of those. Some SCVs went down because the 4th base was under attack. Still under attack, but now with some reinforcements actually covering it. Not a big deal. Plenty of extra barracks for those tech labs. Moving on into Marauder production. And eventually, as we will expect it, right? TvZ 2023, Ghosts will eventually come out as well. That is if Dark actually starts making some actual tier 3 units. I mean, Ghosts are going to come out no matter what, actually, but I guess the amount of Ghosts might be more in question. Drop on the main base ain't looking so bad. Gonna grab a couple of Overlords. Only Lings responding so far. So you can stand your ground a little bit and trade out effectively there, and that's exactly what Kira did. 3-3 started up for, well, almost both players. So not a particularly big improvement there for Cure. He was just trying to keep Dark from just taking over the map. And if you do look at the mini-map, Cure's been quite effective at it. Dark does have 5 bases, was trying to get to a 6th, I think. I think that was the drone. Poor little blood splat. But I'm looking at the creep spread, and the creep spread really is not that impressive. But it's not because Dark is bad at creep spread. Maybe he's a little bit worse than some other top-tier pros, but it's not that he's really bad. It's that Cure has been super active with his marine pressure. So there's never been a point where the queens have comfortably just stayed on those front lines by themselves all willy-nilly. Only 1 queen has died, so good queen retention. But yeah, creep spread, a little lackluster. And it would be so easy for the Cure to just say, well, you know, it doesn't matter anyways. They're gonna replace the creep tumors. If we're going into a 50-minute game, you're gonna get the entire map anyways. But you really gotta push against that, you know? You gotta try and stop them from literally seeing everything on the minimap. Even if you're not planning on doing much on the minimap. And certainly Cure is not so much. The drops, yes. Main push-outs, as I was saying earlier, not so much. He sits back at home, gets everything perfected on the defense. It's not a wrong way to play. Certainly not. It's very much arguably the best way to play. It just doesn't inspire a lot of back and forth, a lot of super cool dynamics, right? We do have purposeful killing of your own army units to replace with better units like these Ghosts, perhaps. 3-3 is about to finish. So many upgrades on the production tab for both players. Dark, as I said, at some point, will be very comfortable in his ability to remax and will throw bodies and more bodies and more bodies at his Terran opponent until hopefully he actually finds an avenue of victory, a weakness in the armor. I'm looking right now, and where is the weakness? I gotta say, some of the SimCity, quite impressive. Good use of the map. And now those Vipers taking advantage of what was initially clever tank positions. Some nice use of the Vipers. Love the Vikings being added in. You know, like, why not? There's no Corruptors, no Hydras. The Queens, I guess, maybe eventually could get on the front lines, but the Vikings really are there just saying, no, you can't just stay here. Like, screw you. Because it is so common for a Zerg player to, I think, feel confident on those ledges. You know, if they're running over Marines, that's a different deal. They're running into Ghosts, that's a different deal. But usually out here is kind of a safe space. 2 Vikings. Whoop-ha. Slap you in the face for it. Don't kill you, but still. And more Ghosts are on the way, which are going to be the real punishers of any too forward movement from the Zerg player. Anytime Dark was a little bit too forward, then the Ghosts are there. Pew, 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 pew. No Parasites on the way, because why not? Why not get literally everything? Plus, Dark is particularly good. Certainly want to use it the most. About neural parasiting those Ghosts. Wall has been broken. Planetary is the next target. All before building armor is done. A little unfortunate there. Blinding Clouds, I think, missed the Planetary, actually. I think they're still shooting at me. But the Banelings, I was going to say, weren't crashing into the bio. They do manage to get to the front line connections at the last second there. And there are more Banelings, too. And I think Kier just made a big mistake. He actually just ran into it. The EMPs come down. What? Wait, I'm actually kind of confused. Why did he do that? He must have missed... What was he meaning to press instead of the EMP? That was actually really funny. I'm gonna assume we just saw a pro have the exact moment that we've all had, which is like, fuck! You know? It's not, it doesn't share the same button with Stim. It'd be weird if it did, if he literally put it on the same button as Stim. That'd be really terrible. Well, yeah, I can't explain it, but there was no effect to it. There was no High Templars coming for a feedback, and it was like this big brain maneuver to save his ghosts. Nope. He might have just presumed that there were Vipers. Honestly, that might have been what it was. He assumed the Vipers were close enough to EMP because he went like over here and then went back, you know what I mean? But we won't harp on it too much because Kier did not die, despite definitely messing up a few times. I would say it was back-to-back mistakes on the Ling Banling front, on dealing with the Ling Banling front, that is. But now Kier back once again, I think in a comfortable enough position, dip down ward supply with most recent attack, sure, but I would say that like you're gonna recover, all right? I don't see this game ending anytime soon unless Kier makes a huge mistake, like absolutely monumental mistake. As he has plenty of bases, plenty of SimCity, plenty of defense. Dark really is trying to find the best opening possible, and he is finding openings. He's taking down tank numbers. He's using his spellcasters. He just hit on a planetary. He's gonna look for the orbital, maybe, the would-be orbital, but yeah, a bit risky to do that one. And, well, probably lost quite a few resources in it. That's the Zerg expectation. A little bit of a run-by. Wasn't even a drop, just a run-by. Ran out on the map. Cleared up the creep spread and killed a hatchery, so way to go. Those were real hero marines right there. And now we have Kier even starting to leapfrog forward. He really does have the army for it, though. It's going to be a very slow leapfrog forward, but if you can kind of more so hang the noose around your opponent than just wait to die, I do think, you know, suddenly the Zerg player has to sweat a little bit. That is better, but it is also potentially a mistake. Moving out away from your SimCity and your planetaries and whatnot can oftentimes be a mistake. In that case, though, I think he traded up very efficiently. Dark had some Ling Banling on their right side, which did manage to get something done, but wasn't helping over here. And I think Dark was also saying, no, you're moving too forward. Like, you shouldn't do that. I should be able to punish this. And he was wrong about that. Kier takes a really good fight. Now they're both at even supply. Dark might have a huge mineral bank, but not so much on the gas. Is Larva a problem as well? Yes, it is. The Larva just popped, but he has pulled his queens away from injects. And I would say with how many hatcheries he has, 9, I wouldn't usually anticipate a problem. But when you are trying to max out on mostly Lings, because even though you are building Ultras, it's still mostly Lings, I guess it is a problem. So Dark's got to be wary of that, man. 3 tanks at a time, love it from Kier. Really, it's so frustrating to watch a Terran player lose those tanks like he did here and then never replace them. You know, just too slow in the tank production. He could be too broke too, which is very understandable. And then that is missing. And it is important, as much as occasionally tanks look dumb because they're on their own, they get abducted over here, Lings jump on top of this one, and it's like, well, what are you even doing with your life? You stupid tank. Well, obviously, tanks are very helpful, and it's synergistic. You need the tanks, you need the other units around the tanks. The big improvement in the last year was people started adding on Hellbats, and I think initially the Hellbats were added in, and then they were just kind of like run forward as if they were Marines. And I thought that was quite bad. I did not see the appeal of the Hellbats. Not a fan. But more so when the Terran player is like, you know, Hellbats and a tank. And they're my guard. That's when I really like it. But anyways, so that's what we see nowadays. Hellbats do tank a few more of those Banelings. They do help out against the Lings. They have that cone of splash. But I think it's really about protecting those tanks and the tanks protecting them and just synergy. I did just notice over here while I was going around the tank talk that there's really nothing defending the space. No lifts. Okay. Barely last second lift. Kier was not so much moving out. Well, he's really doing both. And both things are important. He's moving out. He's forcing Dark to take a second and realize I can't just continue throwing army at this guy. He is going to do something about it. But he's also taking a base. And when he takes this base and gets to plant his army here, he's scaring Dark's base here and here. And he's protecting his bases now. Now, he moves all of his army off to the left side. The right side kind of naturally becomes less defended. That's how it's going to work. You only have so much supply in StarCraft. But I like the Liberators. I like that idea. The tanks were here, but obviously they got obliterated. And now the ghosts are responding to what is mostly just the ultras, which they are perfect at doing. This is now really not a very good harassment force at all, though I love when ultras burrow and it's just not immediately obvious where they are. How a ghost doesn't see this ass sticking out of the ground, I don't know. Needs a scan. A Dark had to give up this left side. He actually had taken this space, I think, or was taking it and canceled it. I swear I saw a bigger red blob up here, but he had this one, had to give it up. He's gonna go ahead and revolve, you know, around the clock, right? And just be like, well, you take the left, I take the right. Fair is fair. But if Cure then gets this space, which is still rather healthy, they're still gonna be on an even number of bases taken in the game, which might not sound that bad, but remember that Zerg has to almost always have worse resources lost. Oh, that was a tough one. So they want more bases. They want to take up all the minerals before the Terran gets to them. And they really don't want to have the idea of a Terran player with a planetary here knocking on the door of this space, which is not important, but then knocking on the door on the reinforcement line. It's a bit scary. Probably not what's going to be not what's going to happen necessarily. It's probably more so what's going to happen is that this base is taken, secured, and then most of the army fights start happening around that right side, because that's the one that Dark needs to mine from. This Ling Baneling Ultra attack right through the middle, however, as Kira starts to send his units over to that right side, was really well timed from Dark. That just went up with the right amount of units against the right defensive units. Kira had tanks mostly trying to cover themselves, which the Lings just jumped on top of, no problem. SCVs aplenty going down, command centers going down, and Kira has now lost that access to the left side. Perhaps going to try and deal with Dark's right side a bit too quickly. Maybe he should have solidified himself a little bit stronger or longer on the left and tried harassing on the right. Hindsight 2020 and all that, but now we might have another revolve around as this base gets taken down by Kira and he decides to expand over to the right side. A couple of reinforcing Zerg units getting killed, actually, severely injured. And again, minerals not a problem for Dark. Gas absolutely is. Cannot be affording to just willy-nilly lose units. Kira's economy is in absolute tatters, though. 24 SCVs. Yes, he's got a handful of orbital commands, 7 of them. But, ooh, that is a low number of SCVs. About to get lower. Fresh mules being jumped on top of by these cracklings. Ultra's gonna avoid the liberate and liberate against Lings. Not super effective. And now we're down to 15, 14, 13 SCVs, 12. That's a very, very, very low work account. Getting increasingly closer to being non-existent. Kira isn't even mining at this point. All of his bases have been overrun. The Zerg infestation, well and truly in effect. I love that it's like the last little remnants of the Protoss homeworld. He lifts his depots. It's like, I've got you guys. 4 Marauders and a Hellbat. You'll do great things. By the way, see you later. We're over here. You're screwed. And that is actually the current situation. We have ourselves a base trade. Dark is going to lose, of course, his own drones, his own hatcheries, and also his production capabilities with those hatcheries, which was an issue earlier on. Going to be a bigger issue as the game goes on? Question mark? I mean, it's going to be a very, very scrappy game, so we'll see. I don't know if Dark is planning on remaxing, as he only has 1,000 minerals in the bank, and no one is mining very much at this point. Dark has 46 drones evacuating, trying to rebuild elsewhere, taking the back of the gold because it can be sneaky sometimes, although I think that's now, the jig is up on that one. Most players are pretty quick to checking that particular base. Bases have been lifted. Banelings just connected so well. I mean, it was a bunch of tanky units, to be fair, but they were awfully grouped up. Dark could have hoped for, I think, a better connection. At one point, Cure was at something insane like a 140 army supply because he was building army and losing SCVs. Now, only ahead by 30 army supply isn't as bad. For Dark, that is. I think Dark was behind 40 or 50 earlier. Now he's behind 30, so maybe. But that's where we're at. The Terran is not going to reclaim base. Well, actually, I think he could. He could try to reclaim some bases. What is that? What is that? It was a drop. So why is that pinging me? Interesting. all of the Terran structures go into the gold base. They're going to be fighting around the gold base. That's funny. Dark has managed to get some mining up on the bottom right, or has been mining from that, actually. SimCity. Right? SimCity is going to be really helpful for Cure. He's going to mule the gold, mine it out pretty quickly. Because I don't think he might want to save one scan. Just for, like, just in case he's, like, a neural parasite, for instance. But he should have quite a few mules. Obviously, this can't drone. So the drones are once again evacuating. On to the next base. Dark has used up a lot of his mineral bank in replacing hatcheries. First it was this one, now it's this one, and this one, actually. So he's only mining off of one base. And that's losing minerals. Which side of the map is healthier, I'm wondering? It's not the circumstance in which I was thinking I would question how many minerals were left. I thought we'd be still in a very locked turtle kind of game, not a base trade. But nonetheless, we are asking how many resources are left where. This is quite a few. Pretty similar to this gold base, though. This one was not mined very much. That one wasn't mined very much. Well, Dark, even if he had more resources on his side of the map, it's very fluid, isn't it? What is his side of the map? We're very map fluid right now. And then he has to afford an entire hatchery to mine from where he goes, or of course Kira doesn't. But a couple of hydras were produced to get some anti-air. Notably not air not in the air though, so they can't actually chase these buildings on the corner. This one's gonna burn, guaranteed by looks of things. But Kira continues to stomp around with his superior army. At this point, only 8 army ahead, but it is so tanky. Ghosts are full up on energy. Are they gonna get the shots? Actually, no, everything's picked up. He's gonna evacuate, realizing that the surround is too damn good, and it was a damn good surround. Now that looks terrible. But the ghosts are still alive. They can get the snipes. They can be microed heavily. And remember, Ling Baneling was sacrificed. Banelings, of course, having to sacrifice themselves to engage, to do that. So even though that looked like a really good engagement for Dark, he actually is now behind 10 army supply. So technically, it was a little worse for him, actually. More drones going down. Not that I mean, these guys have actually pilgrimaged around the map. I swear, these are the same drones from this base. You don't have TvZ base trades a whole lot. I would say one of the problems of that, the reason we don't have it as much as the other matchups, is that when a Terran player is having to hurry, that means they go on creep going up against Banelings. And even if they have a tanky army, if they take a good Baneling to the center of their army, it's still amazing damage. But it just happened that Cure blitzed across the map before Dark could get reinforcements in plentiful enough numbers. Because there was that moment right here when the Banelings did connect before Cure responded and microed. But it didn't happen often enough. So a very rare sight, this one. Infestors are on the way. You know, Infestors were built earlier. I swear I saw like 3 Infestors. I think you guys will agree. And I guess they just died. Did they actually do anything? No, we saw a fungal. We did see a fungal, that's right. So 6 Infestors have been made and they died. I'm not sure they were super worth their investment, but this one Infestor, I really have high hopes for. I think this Infestor is the God Infestor. I'm preparing for it. Because I think, you know, this might be what Dark is 10 out of 10 on, all right? I'm always on the lookout for what Dark 10 out of 10. Infestor usage. He makes Infestors, which a lot of other Zerg players seem to be really hesitant about, and then he uses them well. Specifically, the amount of times that I recall Dark, the player Dark, specifically, get into these base tradey, low econ, low army situations, and then proceed to make his inferior quality army look like a Protoss army, like it's high quality. You know, like this army is supposed to be killed and then replaced, and then killed and then replaced. But Dark has a way of just suddenly like buckling down and saying, no, I'm not a Zerg anymore. I'm a Protoss. I have this many units. That's my game. It's my entire game. Literally in this game, it pretty much is. And I'm going to use every single one of these units as if it is a Stalker with Blink. And a Warp Prism's microing it. So I do think Dark is, weirdly enough, familiar with these situations. He had a couple of games versus Time when this happened over the last few years. Against Bjorn. Against, I'm sure it's happened against Cure before as well. But yeah. And I'm sure Cure knows how frightening Dark can be in the situation. Against a worse Zerg or a different Zerg, there might be a lot of confidence for Cure right now as he continues to get more information because, you know, we don't know how much bank you have. What if I'm miscalculating if you have a Spire or not? You know, there's definitely still question marks, of course. But, you know, the Terran army is good quality. Some maybe wasted supply in medevacs, you could argue, but it's good quality. And yet he has to be so careful. If he doesn't account for an Infestor Neural on a Ghost that EMPs, takes away all the snipes, could be devastating. Would that be enough? Because Ghosts, even without their snipes, have some pretty good... Yeah, there it is. Have some pretty good DPS. He finally gets his SimCity up, by the way. So he took the chance of transporting his buildings across potential infested land, and the Hydras were trying their best to snipe it before it landed. But he manages to successfully get his buildings from the top left corner to a mining base with the SimCity down. You know what I would like to see? I wish that he would stay at home. It's very difficult to think about anything in this situation, by the way. So I am... Whatever they're doing is right to them, 100%. But you know what I kind of wish would happen is that Cure would, one, use his Vikings to go around and kill Overlords. He'd have to control them because he doesn't want to use them against the Hydras, but he could kill a lot of Overlords. And that's expensive. Dark doesn't have that much supply. And then two, yes! Use a medevac to micro something. Because there really is very little air punish. The Hydras do have their upgrades. Okay, there's so many upgrades to look at. Speed upgrade. I mean, there's so... He doesn't have the range upgrade, does he? Oh my god, please don't, like, make me look stupid. She's like, I'm just gonna send this one back right to the Hydras. What else was I looking for? I was looking for the Hydra count of 4 Hydras. Yeah, the drop actually ended up being worth it because he saved it. It did kill a lot of Lings. Continuing to kill the medevacs there. I mean, you definitely want to save at least 2, I would say. Oh, it goes for the Vikings. I really wish you'd use the Vikings to kill Overlords. I think that's actually... That's a bigger play than might be expected. And it might sound stupid, but... Kind of is. I guess they have Overlord speed, so as soon as Dark realized that his Overlords were being gunned for, he would just take them and put them somewhere safe. I guess, but having been witness to Gumiho's epic, like, 30 Overlord kill game where he was kind of losing, but then he had Vikings left over and he found all the Overlords and they won because of it. I never underestimate that option in a base trade. But if you're gonna get rid of the Vikings anyways, why not try and kill Overlords before they die to the Hydras? As I said, whatever they're choosing to do right now is the best option for them and their vision and their knowledge. Dark has finally gotten up another base. Unfortunately, it was a base that was already mining out, so not the best situation for Dark still. But 16 drones to 2 SCVs, so you know. Better than what Kira's got. A missile turret's coming down. Oh, he's very well aware of the Infestor, isn't he? He got fungled earlier on. He knows that's sharking around somewhere. Good investment. I would have completely forgotten. I did forget, and I'm casting this game. I would have been like, oh, I don't know. How do I deal with the Infestor? What's a structure I can produce? Ugh. And this engineering bay adds some SimCity. Relatively cheap for how much health it has too, actually. it's not talked about often enough. Engineering base, good unit. Good structure to have. And things apparently calmed down. Kyrus decided just to stay at home. I think what was happening earlier on was that he was trying to mobilize his army in the direction of his structures. So he was still moving around, and that's always scary. Your tanks aren't siege. You don't know if the Zerg player is tracking you or not. But as soon as he was able to connect them, meet up together, he feels better about staying at home. At some point, there is probably also a question as to, should I try and play an actual base race? Like, can I kill all of Dark's buildings? But if that was something he was thinking about, I'm glad he didn't try and commit to it, because I don't think it would have worked. You have no idea about your opponent's bank. You can have a guess, but you don't know. 36 minutes in. This game has resets. One base to 1. Because this one's mining out. This gold base was blocked by a Ling, and all these little scouting units from Dark are just, oh, brutal. Lings do not see a lot when they're burrowed. I'm trying to get a Ling out in the middle of nowhere so you can see. That's what they see. It's not a lot. But 25 minerals a Ling, 6 Lings, not necessarily going to make or break your army. Not only do you block and force a scan, but also getting any information. It's pretty good. Another missile turret. I think he's leapfrogging him. Yep. He's got his little lineup here. I think this tank should be moved. I think you should just keep your army mostly together. You know, so specific. There's no way you're thinking about this and everything else you're thinking of. But this tank's kind of... it's in a danger zone. Danger zone. This is a wall, I believe. I think. Maybe. Actually, I don't know. Question mark. But this isn't. 5 SCVs just went down. I don't know to what. Oh, the infestor! You little devil, you. Did he must have actually, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna rewind. I want to see what happened. A fungal wouldn't have killed him. Oh, the timing on this, by the way. Oh, that timing. Oh, the medevac wasn't here. And. Okay. Medevac! How dare you? Double fungal happened. Alright. Good stuff, good stuff, good stuff. 5 SCVs, big deal, big deal. Not sarcastic, by the way, it is a big deal. So from 20 to 15 SCVs, now 29 drones. Infestor is the way to go. And generally, when we talk about really low econ situations, generally Spellcaster is good because Spellcasters have abilities that you don't need to spend money on. And that's why Infestors, back when they had Infested Terrans, were super broken in a game like this. Dark's about to have 3 bases, 2.5 mining. This one should mine out soon. Not really any, the fuller bases. This one and this one, right? Is this still 16 out of 16? For the minerals. This one's still at 12, that's pretty good. This one's also mining out. No one wants to move out. No one has any reason to move out. It's not quite that chess term that I can never remember. Zugwang, whatever. Where moving puts you into checkmate or something. Zugzwang, thank you. But, you know, definitely a situation where no one's really favored if they move out. Who would actually win the battle if they did engage? I'd say the Terran, but it depends on if their tanks are siege and their army's spread out. And they don't get fungled. It's a lot of ifs. Zug. Yeah, that one. Just zug word. Widow Mines are a great option. Widow Mines plus sniping the Overseer. All right. All right. All right. The way you pronounce it could hardly be further off. I think I nailed it. I think it's Zug's Wing. Oh, the Fuggles again! Oh, 6 SCVs this time. He thought he was, he thought he got him with the Marauder on the backside, and Dark somehow sharked his way up to the high ground, and that thing's still gonna live. No, yeah, you dead, you dead, you dead. Go like Sukswung? Suks, yeah, no, that's not happening. Well, the medevac going around and doing some scouting I think is really important. I like that he's doing that once again. I was gonna say, this is a Liberator. But Liberator range isn't done, so... I'd still think it'd be somewhat effective. Because, you know, a Liberator here and the Hellbat drop... here? Or vice versa? Oh, this is about to mine out anyways. I don't know. But Dark is starting to roll down the hill, you know? Like, a minute ago, 2 minutes ago, I still was kind of a fan of the Terran scrappiness and the Terran quality units. But I think now Zerg is starting to snowball. The Terran has not been able to confidently enough take enough bases to stay on track. Whereas Dark did take the appropriate risks. Did go for the expansions and has been rewarded because they are never punished. Cure, you know, he would have had to have built an entire new command center to continue expanding, which is a really tough ask in a game of this nature. When you want to make sure you don't die to them trying to kill you. You need to build army. Another great fungal. 7 SCVs go down. So, yeah, I can't really blame Cure for not doing it, but I think the equivalent would have been Dark taking 3 extra hatcheries and then Cure skipping 4 Marauder production to build a command center. If he had done that a minute or 2 ago, 2 minutes ago, and this has been mining that entire time, I think he's more on track with Dark. Maybe like 140 against 177. But he didn't. So he could not reach the same progression snowball. And now Dark is a very comfortable 60 supply ahead. 50 of it in army supply. Good army too, Vipers and Infestors, Sling, Baneling, Ultra. And Cure is gonna have to once again deal with someone running around, so no base will be secure anymore. When there was like 7 minutes where nothing happened, right? Or very little happened. Now everything's gonna happen once again, and he can't secure it because he can't really afford to go for a planetary. Plus, the amount of minerals that he has on this little corner of the map is starting to get awfully low. Dark has mined out his safety bases, but he's now feeling so empowered, he's taking Cure's old 3rd base, so... it's a good sign for Dark. Yeah, I think Cure's pretty screwed. Dark would have to throw away an army, because he still could. It's not like he's banking money here. It's not like he's so super safe. But he would really have to throw his army into a terrible engagement. Even this is not as secure as it looks, because the spellcasters are involved. Abduct, subduct, abduct. Kirt has no idea how far behind he is in supply. All he knows is that he's tucked in, wrapped like a little burrito, and he's not leaving. More fungals. 20 plus SCVs have died to the fungal harassment? There's one of those abducts that I was talking about. I don't know how many SCVs have died in the last 5 minutes, but quite a few. 13 hatcheries, 28 tanks. That's a high number right there. Oh my god. The resources lost at one point was more of a, I think, consistent 20,000. Now it's 13,000. I don't know how long that's been the case. Of course, I haven't checked that in a while, but... You know, it was just a little ling. Still on 3 orbitals, of course. This is one of his OG ones, the one flying around. I think Dark might be understanding more and more that he does have the bigger army. He's gonna find an opening here. And still have to respect the army incoming. But, oh yeah, the fungals. Oh, the fungals. Oh, the fungals. I mean, Liberator's still sieged up, but the fungals were good. You hear the cry of the ghosts, but maybe now is time to skedaddle just because you have to play it safe. Dark doesn't have a super comfortable remax. But it's getting more and more comfortable by the second. He has gas, he has minerals, he has drones to get more gas. And Cure should be, at this point, having seen the size of that army, having not really seen a lot of the map in a while, should probably figure that this map has been taken. The Zerg army is much bigger than his. And if it could just... Oh, no! Yes! Oh, it was a Hellvat. I was looking for the EMP snipe. I mean, I'll take it. That was still fun. I mean, I think if the Zerg player went through right here, right up the boobies, I think it might be a terrible enough engagement, but Dark's not going to do that. He's going to go on the right side with Lings. Left side will have his spellcasters, once again taking out some of the critical siege units of his opponent. And while he does actually, in that case, lose some of his own expensive units to the snipes, he still did damage. The boobas still hold, by the way. Done it. 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 Yep. Okay, that could have been better. You missed one. So there we go. It's 2 circles. If the Widow Mines are right here, that'd be perfect. Lings and Banelings have been sneaking up to this top base for a while now, every 40 seconds or so. 20 SCVs killed, Cure back down to 7. Down 60 army supply. And they're all parasited to the EMP! It happened! Granted, that was one of the easier, less super exciting ones, but still, it happened! And now Dark is just saying, F it. He is going through the middle. Like I said, might be the worst possible situation. Huh? Huh? Yeah, this actually was not the super greatest, best thing ever I've ever seen. So much of his army was in infestors that they actually had very little to do so quickly. The army supply closer than ever before, that was exactly what he was not supposed to do. No, Dark doesn't throw this though. No. No. Right? He doesn't throw this. He was 60 army supply ahead. And he had a bit of a bank. His infestors are gonna win this freaking game. Oh my god. Cure is like, I'm done. I'm done. And I guess he was. He was not gonna be able to kill Dark fast enough. 5 units running across the map, killing all these hatcheries. That wasn't gonna happen, but oh, Dark. You made it a little too close for comfort, my dude. GG's. 48 minutes. We got to the hour mark. I didn't bring it up. Used to be the hour marker before Legacy of the Void fixed the timer. Okay, I did it. Okay, game 3 is on the way. And now it is all tied up 1-1. 48 minutes later. The first game was 6 minutes long. if that. Does this meet somewhere in the middle? Neo-humanity, top left dark, bottom right cure. Cure not 2-raxing, so it shouldn't be a super quick game. It is definitely the case that people, Terrans, I would say more often, would cheese immediately after a game like that. I would say especially if they lost, actually. Now, I don't have the stats. I don't know if it's really the most common thing to do, or if it's, you know, confirmation bias or whatever you would call it, but it does seem to be kind of common. You just played a super long game, you might be tilted, your opponent's at the very least exhausted, you hit him with a quick punch, it's almost dirty, it's almost like kicking him during the break, but not this time around. Cure, gonna go for a command center first, once again, the build that kickstarted the last game, if you remember, roughly 49 minutes ago. And for Dark, he is going into a regular build as well, at least so far. I mean, he has been known to throw down a Roach Warren around like 4:20 or something like that. 4 minutes, maybe? No, actually, he even throws it down at 3:30, and then sometimes doesn't use it to be aggressive. He just has it. He's like, well, I might use it. Meh. He doesn't. I think he's been a little less prone to doing that, though, lately. Oh, this should be for aggression, but it's dark, so who knows what's going to be for Roach Warren. I'm super glad he's not going for a very, very early one, though, because that seemed so ineffective when we saw Rattata try and do it. Not going to be a 2-1-1 setup this time for Cure, going immediately into the double gas and adding on that factory. But just open up some possibilities. I wonder what he's gonna go for. The second barracks makes it fairly obvious, but the second factory, I mean, you go up to Starport for battlecruisers, you go into just typical Hellion Banshee. You could go into something crazy, like 2 Starport Banshee. Dark has little ideas what his opponent's gonna be following up with. Knows it's command center first, of course, but otherwise would be waiting for Lane to get up there, see the factory, or for Hellions to appear. As soon as Hellions arrive right here, he's like, ah, okay, that's what it is. Dark has a handful of Lings off to the right side, being a little sneaky sneak. A little sneaky sneak? A little snack snack? Not one to be caught by the Reap before speed is finished. They could go ahead and just grab that Reaper, and there's not much else beyond that. But if they could also grab the 2 Hellions, if this was a 2-Rax opener, how many Marines would be available? 4? 5? It's the number of Lings I don't think was actually that scary to a lot of things. I could see if there was 3 Marines here and 4 Marines up here or something like that, though. He did have the Overlord. He knew what was going to be there or what wasn't there. Tried to time it out. Almost got into the main, but not really. And, didn't even see the high ground, so... Doesn't even know? Doesn't even know. The Viking will kill the Overlord. Now a Viking comes out. And then a reactor is added onto the starport. Oh, it's just for barracks. Damn it. I was about to get really excited. What if the 2 base held that Viking all in? That's something Euthermal does. But yeah, the Viking coming out at all is it's always a little funny, because it's such a still unpopular thing that when it does come out on occasion, people are always like, really? A Viking? In this case, I do think the Viking makes a lot of sense. It's Viking before Banshee that really people don't like anymore. But a Viking in general popping out, sure. I would also say, though, it is usually combined with a Liberator, but just really clearing out the Overlords, a little bit of creep super clear up, opening up the pathways for drops later on, and then right towards getting the tank production and barracks production set up. This is going to be a 2-base build. Unless I'm missing something. Yeah, okay, so he is changing things up. It's a 2-base build, no third CC. Viking cleared out the Overlord that would notice a really dramatic lack of third CC. It wouldn't have appeared on this location, however, because the supply depots are already starting to wall off. So often with the third CC opener, it's 2 supply depots and then the command center. So that's what he knows, is that it wasn't that build. But that's not really guaranteeing there's no third CC in the high grounds. And how is Dark going to be able to figure this one out? Dark is going into Roaches, which I think do really well against a 2-base push. You still have to realize it's on the way, though. And, you know, get Ravagers and buy time and all that good stuff. It's possible Kira has done this build to him before and he's already a little bit suspicious of it. It's possible the lack of third command center on the front lines was also a bit too suspicious. But I don't think you could really guarantee your game on it. And the Helmian number is not really telling you which way or another. Sometimes one engineering bay is shown on the front. I think that's a huge giveaway. Not here for Cure. I mean, Dark really is trying to figure things out. He's going to see no third CC on either third location. And I think at 6 minutes, not even a one floating over is pretty weird. So, but that's how much heads up is that really? Not too much, but maybe enough. As Dark stops reducing drones. Started at 69, which is a good number anyways, but he's got to start building those Roaches. Many Roaches, Ravagers as well, and Ravagers take this extra couple of seconds to actually form, thanks to our recent patch, and that creep spread on the right side is fairly abysmal. Looks like the Viking killed the active creep tumor again, I think is what happened, or a Hellion. Either way. Dark is not prepared for this as much as he would have liked to have been. Didn't realize it was for a fact a 2-base build until it was already heading across the map, as what I believe to be the case. Or he was too greedy, if he figured it out earlier. They can't get enough Roach Ravager. Roach Ravager is, I think, very good against this. The problem would be if your reinforcement line was already compromised. If Roaches were popping out here into tank fire, then I think you're in a lot of trouble. But he was building rapidly the Roaches. Gets a little supply blocked. Kind of a really good starting time to be supply blocked. But has combined them together, gotten a handful of Ravagers, and Cure actually pretty hesitant to continue moving on. Wants to try and find a different avenue of attack, which is giving Dark a lot of time to get maxed out. And I think more importantly, is giving him time to position his units and get his upgrades done. Cure, I think, was actually in a very good position when he blitzed onto that 4th base, but not continuing to push from this angle as fast as he could have, maybe. Might have opened up the opportunity for Dark to hold. I don't want to say it was a guaranteed win. I certainly don't think this is a throw of any sort, but Cure, 2 base all in here. 1 upgrade. The second one's going to take a while to actually finish. The tank count's not going to be extremely high because it's only 1 factory. And it's all in. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Here we go. Tanks, a lot of them on siege for the beginning. The Corrosive Bile is only managing to hit 1 of them and just completely whiffing on any of the Marines. Most I can say about that is the tank died and Stim was used. Medivacs are energy based, so that's something to consider. More Roaches are on the way. A little bit more of a surround. Again, some of those tanks not sieged up. Big surround this time. Queen's coming with this as well. 3 tanks still left over. 2 of them about to be taken out. 1 more Corrosive Bile finally does the trick. And Dark still holds on to a decent army. Is it decent enough? That many Marines is awfully scary, but they are stimmed. They realize they're actually going too far forward. More army coming from that left side. Actually, at a perfect time. The Marines, I don't think, are going to cut it. They see the soft underbelly. They see the Ravagers almost all alone. And that's when you really want to gun forward. But you can see that the Marines just couldn't quite hold up. A handful more of them, more medivacs, that +1 armor being done. All of those things could have actually made it, so that was the moment. That was the break. And yet it was not. Dark barely holding on there. Now gonna fully clean this up. And Cure's 2 base all in did not work out. GG. Dark takes the 2-1 best of 3 and moves on to, I don't know when this was in the tournament, but he moves on to the tournament. GG. Fun series there. And game 2 is certainly quite crazy. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please like, subscribe, follow the YouTube, all the good stuff. And I'll see you guys later. Bye. That was fun.